Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Government and Politics session today of the Futures Conference. This is a panellist session, and we're really pleased to be welcoming Angela MacDonald and Matt Noble, who are both former students of Leeds Girls High School and Leeds Grammar School, respectively. And so Matt is a cabinet member for climate action, regeneration and renters at Westminster Council. And Angela MacDonald is joining us for a second year running. And Angela is the Deputy Chief Executive and second Permanent Secretary of HMRC. Okay, so I'd like to welcome the panellists to the broadcast today.
Hello.
Hi Laura.
Hi there, hi everybody. Thank you once again for joining us. We're hopefully got lots of questions to come later on from our students, but we're going to start this morning with a few questions to both of you, some of them general and then some of them posed to each of you individually. And then our students joining us in classrooms will have chance later on to put them any questions they have into the chat, and I'll be able to relay them to you. So welcome. The first question really we'd like to start with is obviously about current roles and your current everyday work. And so, Angela, perhaps if I start with you, could you tell us a little bit about your current role at the moment, how you entered the civil service, and perhaps a little bit about what your everyday work looks like?
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Hello, everybody. So I am the second permanent secretary at HMRC. The permanent secretaries are the leaders of the civil service. We are not political appointees, as would be in some countries. Our job is to support ministers to be able to deliver the government's agenda, as well as being able to run the departments. There are 65,000 people in HMRC. HMRC does all the things you might imagine, so collecting of taxes, but we also have a larger criminal investigation force of any crime agency. There's 5,000 people. We do organised crime, global customs, illicit tobacco, that kind of thing. At the other end of the scale, I also administer child benefit, national living wage, so a vast variety of things. We also have one of the largest IT estates of any UK organisation, public or private, so we have some very big technology toys to play with. So it's a very large and complex, both UK but also global environment. I am the UK's representative on global tax also. So there's a vast variety of things to do. I have been a civil servant for about 14 years. I started off in the private sector in financial services. I left Leeds Girls High School in 1988, which is probably well before the time even some of your parents were leaving school. I would love to tell you that I gloriously did it, but I utterly flunked my A-levels. So there's hope for all of you if you have a terrible experience. I utterly flunked my A-levels and moved into sort of a local admin job. So I didn't go to university. So there's a whole array of different ways of entering the civil service, but I hope that mine is an example that there is a whole array of different ways of entering the civil service. In terms of my typical day, it's massively varied, which is what makes my job so interesting. So I do some international work. I was in Sydney in September, meeting with global tax leaders across the world, looking at how we manage global tax administration, so that kind of thing. I also attend public accounts committees. So if any of you were watching Boris Johnson yesterday in the Privileges Committee, that's the committee room into which I will also go and sit. And if any of you are interested, those debates are also televised. Don't get anywhere near as many viewers, I'm sure. So sit in front of things like the Public Accounts Committee. But there's also a lot of things to do to run HMRC. I sit and look at contentious tax cases, but we have a massive IT estate. We have billions of items of data that we have to manage. I've also, as I say, got a lot of leadership stuff to do. So it's a very varied and massively interesting job. Always, no 2 days are the same. I live in York and I go around the country often. So I am in London, but against perhaps what you might imagine, the permanent secretaries do not spend all of their days stalking the Whitehall corridors of power. actually lots of us spend our time all over the country, or indeed in some instances worldwide too. Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Sandra. That's great. And it really is interesting to hear what you do in your everyday work, and obviously how varied the role is. If I move to Matt now, and again, the same question really, Matt, could you tell us briefly about your current role and how you actually entered the world of politics?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Hi, hello, everyone. So yeah, I'm the cabinet member for climate action, regeneration and renters at Westminster City Council, which is it's quite a mouthful, and it covers covers a broad range of stuff. So ultimately, I'm responsible for driving forward our climate emergency policies and agenda. We have targets to be a net zero council by 2030. So with the amount of work that we've got to do to get there, that's not a long time at all. We've got quite a lot to do. We own a lot of homes that we need to retrofit to make them much more energy efficient and much more sustainable. We've got a district heating system which is responsible for more than a third of all of our carbon emissions, and so we need to do a lot of work, and it's very expensive to decarbonize that. And we've got a goal to have the city of Westminster as a whole to be carbon zero by 2040. And that's difficult because of all the different businesses that are on Westminster. We're right in the middle of London here. We've got all the restaurants and office blocks and the parliamentary estate as well, which is very old and horribly energy inefficient. So we'll have to, at some point, we'll have to have a conversation with them about that. Yeah, so as that part of my work is going to like a number of events, trying to get businesses, landowners to sign up to our Sustainable City Charter, which is an initiative to try and get everyone working together to decarbonize their offices, mainly offices and restaurants and shops and things like that. And just being there to provide the kind of strategic direction to the offices. We've got a lot of people work for Westminster Council, but we have a relatively small number of people working in the climate emergency team. But yeah, they give me briefings, come to me with different options on what we can do, and I'm in the lucky position of being able to say, okay, well, I like that idea, let's do that. And then as part of the regeneration part of it, that means I'm responsible for the council's house building programme. So we have a lot of people waiting for council housing in Westminster, and they have to wait a long time. And so that means that there are people living in overcrowded housing for extended periods, and it's not good for anyone's health to have that be the case. So we're trying to build as many low cost homes as possible. That means in numbers, we're building thousands of new homes, and it's very expensive to do. So I think the capital programme I'm responsible for is about £1.4 billion. So we need to make sure that, because that money is effectively belongs to the people of Westminster, that we're not wasting it. We try and do things with as little disruption to people as possible, but obviously knocking down some homes and building others in the middle of a very large city is a difficult job to do. So again, as part of that, I quite often find myself sitting in front of residents and trying to explain why we're doing what we're doing, and sometimes they don't like what I'm saying. So that's a challenge. And then renters means that I'm responsible for the 50 odd, well, I'm not responsible for, but I'm trying to get the best situation for the 50 odd thousand people who live in Westminster, who live in private rented accommodation, just with a private landlord. So that again is trying to quite often persuade the government to give us more power to regulate that sector, and see if we can try and make sure that standards are kept high. We'd like to have a situation where rent is kept low, but I don't think we'll get that from this government, at least. So we're just doing our best on that front. How I got here, well, again, you don't need any qualifications whatsoever to be a politician. So some may say you should have, but you don't. So I joined the Labour Party in 2015, and I was first elected as a councillor in 2018. and then we won control of the city last May. So I've been a cabinet member since then, and it's been a huge change to my life. Basically, on the Wednesday, I was nobody, and by Friday morning, then I'm responsible for all this stuff. So it's been exciting. It's been challenging. The pay is terrible, so I need an extra. I have a job as well, which I do alongside. So that the whole thing keeps me incredibly busy. I left LGS in 1999 and moved to London in 2005, and wasn't interested in politics for a while, shall we say. So there's always you don't have to be passionate about it from school. Some people listening might not give two hoots about politics at all, but you might find later on in life that you see something on the news that you don't like, or you see what's going on in your area that you don't like, and you want to change things. And that's pretty much how I ended up here.
Oh, thank you, Matt. That's really interesting, actually, to hear about your journey into your current role as well. And I think that probably brings me on to the next question to Angela, which is about our students today at GSAL. And could you explain to them about the different routes that there are into civil service careers for school leavers and also for graduates, and perhaps a little bit about how that's changed recently as well?
Yeah, thank you. So there are many different ways of joining the civil service, and the civil service, you can be literally anybody in the civil service. Every career, every profession, every passion that you might have, whether that be UK domestic or global, actually, somewhere in either the civil service or the diplomatic service, there is a job that does that thing. So no matter what it is that gets you excited, and your perspective that we might be a bit sort of, staid and old-fashioned, actually the civil service is one of the largest employers, but we do some of the most exciting stuff. So we do some, the very ordinary things that you would imagine. We run courts and we run job centres and all of those other kind of things, but you can also be a spook, or you could be an ambassador, or you can be running cutting-edge cybersecurity in the National Cybersecurity Centre. We have masses of clinical research stuff. We have a chief scientist, economics. So no matter what you might be interested in, there's something that the civil service does. And the typical way that you might, as a graduate, look to come into the civil service is through the fast stream. The fast stream, very highly regarded. There are 15 different categories in the fast stream, and running across a whole array of different things. So the kind of stuff you can do. So you can do commercial, you can do finance, you can do STEM, you can do engineering, you can go and be a spook. There's, as I say, go into the security services, all sorts of different kind of specialisms that you can apply for. Also, during your university period, we also do a summer intern program that you can apply for if you're interested to learn. And we also have an early diversity internship program as well. So all of this stuff is available for you to look at online. We continue to refine the fast stream experience, and the real focus is on ensuring that we try to keep people in the regions if that's what they want to do. So lots of people think, okay, well, I don't want to do that because I don't want to go and live in London for a period of time. Some of our latest reforms will be about ensuring that the fast stream means that you can stay in whichever part of the country that you're in. The fast stream, typically you are getting sort of 4 or 5 placements across different government departments to see what you're interested in. So there's lots of things always shifting and changing, and you can look online. Now, you don't need to apply for the fast stream straight from university. The average age of a fast streamer is actually 27. It's not 22, because actually lots of people have careers first and then decide that the fast stream might be something that they are interested in. Now, if you aren't a graduate like me, the fast stream was never going to be an option. So there are other ways that people can come in. So we do apprenticeships. You can come and join at the most junior. You could leave, you come and join us straight from school, and we will then support you with qualifications all the way up. In fact, in my own profession, I'm in a service delivery profession. Actually, the civil service will support you all the way up to a PhD level qualification if that was what you wanted to do. So you can come in and take qualifications inside the civil service. And then if you wanted to have a different career first, especially at the most senior levels, all jobs are externally competed. So when my job was advertised, you could have come in from the outside as a private sector person, applied for my job. The civil service is very focused on open and fair competition. So whatever the job is, it will be typically externally advertised too. So coming into the public service or the diplomatic service are not choices you only get a chance to make when you're leaving school or leaving university. They're actually choices which all the way through, and civil service jobs is the place where everything gets advertised. Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Angela. Yeah, and thank you for telling us about the different options actually for school leavers and graduates, and also that obviously joining the civil service is something you can do later in your career as well. In terms of growing areas for young people in the civil service, do you think there are any types of roles or particular areas of the civil service that are offering more opportunities at the moment for young people?
So definitely STEM, so science and technology, absolutely, really trying to pull those kind of graduates in, but also technology and cyber and data. Like, you know, so if you take HMRC, we hold more data about the UK citizen than any other organisation. You can imagine that makes us an exciting target for people who would try to hack us, the kind of foreign, the kind of international global security. And there is a real war for talent across every employer about those kind of future facing technology skills. And the thing with government is we've got more data, we've got more gadgets, and typically we've got more money to spend than most other places. So digital technology, cyber, that kind of end, and as I say, science technology, we're always also trying to pull through. But there are other ends to this, so environmental spaces, so things like the Environment Agency, things like DEFRA, things like clean energy. So the shift into the different kind of diversity around energy mix and future energy policy, and how we support our net zero obligations as a country. So all of the kind of things that you can see that government is needing to adapt the UK to, we are trying to grow the skills as a civil service to allow us to be able to support ministers to deliver their policies, and also practically speaking to actually do it. You know, if we're going to have a load of wind farms, or we're going to have a whole load of offshore, different kind of offshore power, okay, so who's designing that, coming up with the thought leadership for that? That's part of the role the civil service plays.
It sounds exciting, very exciting indeed.
Oh, it is. You can be literally anybody you want to be in here, Laura.
It's great. It's great.
The civil service does it.
Yeah, I hope that's actually broadened people's ideas, perhaps about the civil service and the types of roles that there are, or careers that there are.
Yeah, we're not all grey people wandering around Whitehall. Honestly, it is a vibrant and diverse across the UK, but also, as I say, across topic.
No, it's fantastic. Matt, moving on to you, I was going to ask you a question. Obviously, from what you've said earlier on, you didn't necessarily expect a career in politics.
Mm-hmm.
How did you decide to run for local council then? How did you end up where you are today? Was there something that inspired you, and was it particularly environmental issues perhaps?
Thanks for the question. It's often the kind of thing that people just find themselves doing. So you get lured into it bit by bit, and then before you know it, it's kind of taken over your whole life. So I said I joined the Labour Party in 2015. I think the way the Labour Party gets you to join is, there was a general election coming up. I had a particular opinion on which party I wanted to win, so I think I sent them 10 quid here and 10 quid there, and then eventually something gets triggered in the bowels of the Labour Party headquarters, and they send you an email saying, you've given us this money, would you like to join the Labour Party? So I said, well, fair enough, if I'm sending you money, I might as well do that as well. So I joined, started going to Labour Party meetings, started going door knocking for the Labour Party around where I lived. And then once you get kind of noticed by people around the area, people in the kind of the local party hierarchy, then we're always looking for candidates for local elections. We always need, you know, people. There are certain areas where we know we're not going to win, so we don't kind of run very heavy campaigns there, but we still need people to sign up to be candidates. We call them paper candidates because they're really just names on a piece of paper. And yeah, so I had a conversation with one of the existing councillors who said, have you thought about running in 2018? And I said, yeah, you know, that's fine. I'll put my name forward for that. I can stand in Lancaster Gate ward where I lived at the time, which was controlled by, they'd elected Conservative Party members forever, I think, there. Yeah, so yeah, would have been quite happy to do that. And this guy said, no, we want you to stand somewhere where you might win. So that was it. And you have to put yourself up for selection. So there's a competitive process of getting nominated. You have to go to a meeting where the local party members decide who they want their candidates to be. An existing councillor was retiring after having done it for 30 odd years. And so there was kind of like a spot available in a winnable ward. So I went up for it, went to the meeting, got selected, and then that was it. In 2018, we made some gains, but we didn't take control of the council. And then in 2022, that's when we took power in Westminster. Like motivations for it wasn't really anything to do with the climate stuff. That's something that I've really kind of got more involved in since I've been a councillor. We needed someone to take on that bit of the portfolio, so it came to me. I think, yeah, I mean, people join Labour Party or any political party for lots of different reasons. I think for me it was just more to do with I saw what was happening in the local area, saw what was happening in the country, and I wasn't happy with it, and I wanted to see it change, and I wanted to kind of work towards that aim. You know, we've got a lot of new councillors since May last year. You know, some are in their 20s, some are should we say some are much older than that. So it really is the kind of thing that you can do at any age, really. You know, we've got councillors from, like I say, from in their 20s to in their 70s. It's just you just have to be willing to put the time in. You need to be willing to advocate for your residents. That's what you're there ultimately to do. It's fun being in the cabinet and getting to make these decisions, but we also represent a ward, and we have our residents to stand up for, and so a decent part of my time is spent trying to sort people's problems out if they've got issues with the council's housing department, or they might have issues with their parking permit, or and any of these little things that councils are responsible for. So yeah, it's not something. When I left school, I never thought I'd be like, it just wasn't on my mind at all. And it just like I say, things can trigger an interest, and before you know it, you're sitting where I'm sitting now.
And what do you think the main challenges are? I mean, you alluded to issues with obviously time and having a sort of career alongside being a councillor. What do you think the main challenges are of being a councillor?
That's it. I think in the past, then, being a councillor was there for people who were either they'd maybe retired, so they didn't have those kinds of work commitments, or on occasion it was just people who were independently wealthy enough that they didn't have to work. And those times have changed. We want to be more representative of, we want to reflect the people we represent, and so that means we're a much more diverse group of people now than probably ever before. We've got a lot of us have jobs. Some people do the kind of job where they've been able to maybe go from full-time down to part-time. But yeah, the time commitment it's large. We've got weekday meetings, we've got evening meetings and things, and that's apart from the kind of demands that the party puts on you to go out at the weekends and, you know, deliver newsletters and flyers and knock on doors and ask people how they're thinking about voting in the next election.
Thank you. No, it's really interesting for our young people to hear that about the obviously more young people getting involved in politics and more diversity in politics too. Before we move to the questions from the students in the classrooms, last question for you, Angela, and I think it's really, what advice would you give to young people who are thinking about careers in the civil service or applying for the various routes into the civil service? What should they be putting in their application? What should they be emphasising?
So I think that the fast stream is extremely competitive, and one of the real challenges is actually the way the fast stream works is quite quickly you will end up, maybe in the first or second year, suddenly you could end up in a local job centre leading a team of people. So what we're looking for is not just to demonstrate how clever you are, but how good are you with people? Can we put you somewhere where you can lead other people, where you can understand how to interact with people? And you might think, gosh, well, how might I get that experience as a graduate? Well, there's loads of opportunities at university to be involved in you know, the running of the sports teams, or the stuff that goes on in the students' union, that kind of thing. So we aren't looking for just for you to tell us how clever you are. We're looking for whether or not you can, how you will add value, how you will be able to support and challenge and contribute as a person. So your interpersonal skills, your ability to communicate, as I say, your ability to participate as part of a team. So think about the kind of things that you might do that if you wanted to apply straight from uni. But I do think that I don't worry about thinking, right, well, I've got to get that experience and go straight into application. As I say, the average age of a fast streamer is not 22. So lots of people go and get that experience by doing other stuff. And then that gives them some of those skills, which means that they can stand out in that highly competitive environment. So think about you as a rounded person, not just you as the person who can get qualifications, would be my advice.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Thank you, Angela. And I'm going to ask now students in the room if you could add any messages, or ask your teacher to add any messages to the chat so that I can pose those to Angela and Matt. Hopefully we'll have a few. I'm sure there's lots of things you'll be wanting to ask. I think that message is just being relayed to them now by teachers. I can't see anything appearing at the moment.
I wondered, Laura, if people might be interested. What is a spook? Oh, good question. I do apologise. Security services. So MI6, MI5. It's not quite James Bond. You don't really get a license to kill, but there is. But you know, there is our role in keeping the country safe, both in this country but also abroad. It is a lot more data technology, cutting edge cyber activity, you know, protecting us from hacking. It isn't, as I say, that there is physical stuff, of course, that occurs, but it's much more about the use of intelligence and global cooperation than you might see portrayed on what you might look at as you watch the dramas unfold across the television.
And I think there's another one on there as well, and I think you've mentioned a bit about the variety of opportunities in the civil service, Angela, but question here, if you want to become a civil servant, does it matter what degree you take?
Absolutely not. I I think there will, if there are, just like, in many professions, when you leave, it doesn't matter. Now, there are, of course, there's always some bits, if you want to be the chief medical officer, having a medical degree would probably be a good idea. But in the main, what we're seeking to understand is your ability to think to a certain level, to be able to learn to a certain level. So, I mean, my advice would be, pick a degree which really excites you and which you're really interested in, and then make the best and most fantastic time of that whilst you're at university, and then all opportunities go on from there. As I say, unless of course you want to be the chief medical officer, in which case then a medical degree would be a good idea.
I think following on from that, another question here about what A levels did the panel take and why. So Matt, did you do politics A level by any chance?
No. We did politics at that time, so it was available. No, I did French, German, and history, and I did those because really, like, those were the subjects I was best at. So I just picked my 3 best subjects and went with that. I didn't know what I wanted to do really. So yeah, I picked those, and they seemed like they went together nicely. I wasn't taking wildly different things. It seemed fairly coherent to do those 3, so I picked them.
Yeah,
Also,
so
those were the ones that I thought, like, I liked the subjects and liked the teachers the most as well.
Yeah, so similar to what Angela said about things that you're excited about, things that you're going to enjoy and you have an interest in. I can't see any more questions on the chat there. I did have another question about, have there been any times in your career when you think that maybe there were opportunities you could have taken or didn't, or would you have done any things differently? Is there advice you'd give to young people about that?
I'd say, so I think one of the biggest challenges when you're starting off, and my own son's 27, and he went through school and then to university, and at every stage you seem to feel, and I think I remember the same, that if I don't make the right decision now, it's going to ruin the whole of the rest of my life. I'd just better pick the right degree, or I'd just better get the right job, because everything hinges on this being the correct answer. And so I've got to know what I want to do when I'm 40, because if I don't know what I want to do when I'm 40, how can I pick the right degree? And the pressure that comes with that is immense. And I think the thing that I learned as I went through is that actually you probably just need to be enough to make the next choice and make the next good choice, and then be open to, sometimes those choices go really well. So, I did maths, physics and chemistry at A level. And as I said earlier, that wasn't a good choice, because it was just terrible. And at that point, I thought, God, this is awful. So I then went into the army. So I went to Sandhurst for 9 months, thinking I wanted to be a soldier. Wonderfully, for national security, I never graduated from Sandhurst, because gosh, I would have been terrible. And at that point, my father told me how disappointed he was in me, and that was going to be it. My world was going to be over. So then I just made the next choice, and I started working, and it all took off from there. So I don't think, my advice would be, don't get overwhelmed by thinking you've got to make perfect choices. Make a choice you want to make, and sometimes it will work out exactly as you want it to, and that will be fab. And sometimes it really won't. And in which case, then pick yourself back up and make the next choice, because there's always more choices that you can make. And as I say, life doesn't go in a straight line. Life doesn't turn out exactly as you want it to be, but be open and curious to the kind of things life can offer. And as I say, life knocks you down, pick yourself back up and make a different choice. And, and I suppose all of those not so great choices and outcomes I managed to get, and yet here I am, as part of running of the country. So, these things have a habit of working themselves through if you work hard and you're persistent and you're resilient. I don't know what Matt would think about that advice, but that I wish I'd known it when I was 18. It took me to about the age of 40 to suss that out, but I wish I'd known it much younger.
I think it's very reassuring advice. And Matt, what do you think about that?
I completely agree with everything Angela said. I think there is it seemed, I think when I was at school, I think we felt that there was a lot of pressure to know what it was that you wanted to do. You're selecting your GCSEs at a very young age, then you're selecting the A-levels. And so it feels like you're setting yourself on a fixed path from pretty much the age of 13. And that's, I'd say to people, like, please don't feel that way. You can change. Like I left school, did languages at uni, moved to London, sold and rented out property for a while, decided that the bit of the job I enjoyed most was not actually showing people around flats, but it was doing the contract negotiation stuff. So at that point I said, okay, well, I think I might like to think about being a lawyer, and so I did a law degree at the Open University and kind of went for a career change that way. And yeah, like, really great decision. I don't think, people, ask questions like, would you do things differently? I think for me, it's not just thinking about your career and stuff, or like more philosophically, like, you just don't know. You don't know what would have happened. You don't know if if I'd have done law straight away, that, I could be working at some horrible law firm now, defending, massive corporations for spilling chemicals in someone's water supply. You just don't know where you're going to end up. So I'm happy with where I am now, and I'm satisfied with the route that's got me here.
Thanks, Matt. And I think that's partially answered the other question that we have in the chat, which is, what is your other job at the moment? So alongside being a counsellor.
Yeah, so I work for a software company now, so I negotiate contracts for that software company. We do enterprise architecture, which it's quite specialised. We sell software to large businesses. I'm not sure if HMRC are a current client of ours or not, but I know that some other government departments are, and various NHS bodies, and I think UK Parliament's one of our customers as well. We don't just sell to public sector, but we have clients in all kinds of areas. But it's so that people can design their kind of digital infrastructure in their businesses, all about kind of helping people undertake digital transformation, moving all their things into the cloud, which is what everyone's doing at the moment. So basically the sales team do a deal, and then I negotiate that contract with the customer and see if we can't close it down and get the money.
Thank you. I think we're on mute now. Okay, right. Thanks so much to both of you. I don't think we have any other questions in the chat, unless any appear right now. But obviously, once again, a massive thank you from GSAL for being part of our Futures Conference today. I think it has really actually given our students loads of information about different options, different routes into the civil service, and the variety in the civil service, and also what it looks like being involved in local politics, and the different routes into that in the future for those who are interested. So once again, thank you very much. I think the host will now end the session.
Thank you.
We've got thanks coming in as well from the in the classrooms. Thank you for a great session. Thank you very much, both of you.